Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. Excited to bring you guys episode 35. It's been a minute, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a minute. Life looks a little different than when we hit record button last for one of our bards. It could look vastly different, Jason, as well for you. I'm not quite sure.
That's a different story altogether. So
yeah, that's fair. And so we're here. We're back. Excited to be here, and we also have special guests with us today. Jason, you want to introduce the people to our guest?
For sure. We are excited. We've been blessed with our guests, for sure. We had Jamie Stegmeyer first, which was just awesome. But, Alex knows this. I'm already giving away the name of our guest. But Jamie is very nice and supportive of smaller folks, for sure, or folks who just love talking about games. We were lucky enough to have James Hudson through a family friend. That's a funny story altogether. And then now when we put up our list, I wanted to put our next guest on there because I love following what Alex does. Our guest is Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. The main thing I follow Alex from, and his main thing for us, is the Board Game Co., the YouTube channel. From when I came to it, when he started, I started watching you when you're still like at 2,000 to 3,000 followers, Alex. So from the early days, because my memory of Alex's start was value on crowdfunding games, right? I would watch every video because I was just diving into the Kickstarter world. So Alex gave just straight, direct feedback, honest feedback, and it's awesome, and I love that. We'll definitely have all the links to Alex's stuff in our show, in our information below for YouTube. But Alex also recently became the chief marketing officer for GameFound. And for those who don't know who GameFound is, I know some of our listeners are hardcore gamers, some are not. GameFounding is another crowdfunding platform out there. People know Kickstarter, and a lot of board gamers, of course, know GameFound. But GameFound is just another crowdfunding platform out there. So we are excited to have Alex here today.
Thanks so much for having me. This is a treat, and honestly, following Jamie and James, those are two fantastic people in the working space. Wealths of information. Always happy to talk to anyone. They are tremendous people to be aware of, talk to, and follow, and they're also delightful human beings as well, which certainly doesn't hurt.
I totally agree with that for sure. I've been a fan of Jamie for the same way, and what's funny is James is one of his friends from years ago, and he still lived in Alabama. Is my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. My wife's brother, just by coincidence, are super close friends. And even when James moved back to Alabama, he literally lives in their neighborhood. Crazy small world. And so that's how I knew James by proxy and was already a James fan between Sorcerer City and Grim Forest and all those things. So getting to have James on there. And he gave us a really good education on the term cognitive load. We were talking about how we teach games, and a fantastic term that we use in every game now, in almost every episode. We talk about the cognitive load of teaching a game to someone. So, it's exciting.
So Alex, I was going to ask because we do content creation. Jason and I are tied to content creation, and retail in a separate niche, in the disc golf space. And so I wondered, how long has Board Game Co., when did the idea for Board Game Co. come around? And then when was the first time you sat down and said, hey, I'm just going to send it. I'm gonna make the first video.
So this is I'll try to give you the condensed storyline, the very quick and bullet point directly, because there's a whole journey in history here. But the very, very short storyline is I started in the hobby in around 2011. Towards the end of 2011, I started diving into more designer games as opposed to having experienced one or two. Really started diving into it. From there, that led me starting to get very heavily involved in just picking up a ton of games and trading games. And I started turning trading games into its own little business. At first, it was just a way for me to get extra games here and there, but I found that it was a very functional way to actually set up a industry where there's not a very big used market games on a higher level past 1-to-1, and there was an opening there. I did that started in around 2014 and did that all the way up to 2022. But in 2019 specifically, I started dabbling in social media for the sake of this Board Game Co., this online operation. Again, I think I started in 2013, but it became a business in 2014. Multiple employees, a warehouse in North Carolina, all that. And I started social media, Instagram first, to promote Board Game Co., the retail operation, the online used game store. And then in 2019, I started YouTube specifically. The Instagram had gone fine, but there wasn't a ton of passion behind it. I take a photo, I say a few things, fine. And I was like, I'll try YouTube. Let's see if that can be a good, we have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram, let's try YouTube now. And my first few videos were kind of focused on, I took an approach of, I wanted to talk about the hobby, but I'd be like, oh, this video brought to you by Board Game Co. Buy, sell, trade your way to a better collection. Meaning it was effectively a way to talk about board games while having the avenue, honestly, similar to what Game Nerds is doing nowadays. Game Nerds is a fantastic site that also started a YouTube channel, and they're doing a fantastic job of not feeling like they're just selling their store. They feel like they're bringing value to the space while also being branded by a store. That was my goal. But then very quickly, I stopped talking about Board Game Co. at all because I just didn't care enough. Nothing against my business. I found that even nowadays, I've never been great at selling or pushing. I don't say like, subscribe, share. I just want to talk about things I'm excited about. Yeah. And so I didn't want to say in every video, brought to you by Board Game Co., but I did want to talk about games that I'm excited about, crowdfunding games I'm looking at. And so that very quickly moved from being an outlet for Board Game Co. to being something that was something I loved and was enjoying doing in its own right. And eventually led to me choosing to shut down Board Game Co. because between family, jobs, and hobbies and interests, there's only so much I can do. And YouTube was clearly where my passion lay, as opposed to Board Game Co. as a retail operation was a way to be involved in a space I love, versus YouTube is actually enjoying the thing that I'm doing in the space that I love.
Yeah. So good.
Very
so
cool.
Good.
It's what I will say. It's funny to hear that because and Robbie will understand this. So that Robbie referenced this, Alex, but we come from Frisbee golf. Do you know what disc golf is, or Frisbee golf? You can see the Frisbees in Robbie's. Yep. So Robbie
Stegmeyer probably had a lot to say.
Yeah, he's a hardcore disc golfer, right? And so, and whenever he has had a disc golfer around him before called Big Germ, who's a big Wingspan fan. So we've talked to Big Germ about it anyway. But so Robbie's a content creator in the disc golf world, and then I work at a company who had a online store, and to promote their store, they did YouTube videos, which was funny to hear you say it's become the reverse. And so it's called Foundation Disc Golf. And now Foundation Disc Golf in the disc golf niche space is really big. And so the YouTube is the bigger side of it, but there's still an online store. And so I run I'm the customer experience manager for Foundation. Nice. So it's so fascinating to hear that it's a very similar parallel path for that. I will brag a little bit on Alex as well. So I had to go look this up. So I wanted to know. I'm glad you asked that, Robbie. So according to your YouTube channel stats, I'm going to give this because Alex wouldn't brag about this, but it's a fascinating. If you follow Alex, you'll understand what I'm about to say. So he joined the Board Game Co. says joined December 2019, 3,100 videos in 5 years.
So
Alex,
insane.
if you for those who will go follow Board Game Co., and I'm telling you, I want and push, if I didn't mean it, you need to go subscribe to Board Game Co. The guy, Alex, puts out so much stuff. It's just amazing the fact that he can do that, but he's passionate about it, as he's already said. And what I will, and over 24 million views, it's just fantastic. 62,000 subscribers now, but growing. Like I said, 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I was when you were in between 2,000 and 3,000 subscribers. So it's fun to see this wild journey. The best thing that I love about Alex, amongst many things, is Alex will tell you flat out, you don't need this game. Turn around, look at your shelf. You have too many games. Don't buy this game. Or buy it if you want to, right? It's up to you. Like he addresses the FOMO we have, because I'm having FOMO about Title Blades 2 right now that I didn't back it, right? But I think about Alex. I'm like, I don't need that game. And I love, as you say, he doesn't self-promote himself, and he's transparent about the opinions about games. And I truly appreciate what Alex does for that. I'll get off my step stool just praising Alex, but I cannot emphasize enough how much I appreciate when he says all the great things. Because when Alex goes through his Kickstarter review, he says all the great stuff. And he says, but you don't need this game, right? I'd always love to hear that when he says that. No matter how great this game is, you don't really need this game. Only you know. So I appreciate that, Alex. Board Game Co. is awesome. It's definitely. It is true, and I'm not just saying that. It's number 2 behind the Dice Tower for me, without doubt. Like, I watch every Dice Tower video. Board Game Co. is right behind it. And then, honestly, Stonemaier is right behind there, even though it doesn't put as much stuff out. I always go to your stuff, so I truly appreciate it.
I appreciate that. I always find it fascinating because, and this is not just true here, I've had this happen so many times, but it's fascinating the different takeaways people will have from watching videos. I've had people tell me I've saved them so much money on games. I've had people tell me that I've cost them so much on games. I've had people accuse me of being a FOMO shill, selling everything new. Yeah. And I've had people being like, oh, I love how you're willing to tell us not to get stuff and be critical.
Yeah.
It always comes down to who's watching what takeaways, what lens they're watching, how frequently. But I do find it fascinating how there's such different it responses to the same content that goes out. And honestly, I think it's a big part of that is kind of, you touched upon a little in the last thing you said, where I'll sit there and say, oh my gosh, I love this game, it's great, it's amazing. But then I'll be like, but also you have 14 campaign games you don't need. Right. So like, which one? It's like Tidal Blades 2 looks fantastic, getting tons of reviews, getting tons whatever. But then there's a real question: how many games do you have on your shelf that you're not playing?
Right.
It doesn't matter how good it is if it's just being added to that queue.
Exactly.
Versus if you're actually going to table it, it's a whole different conversation.
Yep, man. So true. My shelf of shame is now down to 4 games. I'm very excited about that, and I'm going to get 2 of them done this weekend. So, but that just proves the point. Just because my shelf of shame is low doesn't mean I need to add more games to it. I need to actually play the games I have, right? Just go through and play the games I have. So true.
No, I think about Shelf of Shame, Jason, and Casting Shadows has still not hit the table for me.
I read the rules to that like 2 weeks ago to finally play it, and then got so close and did not get tabled. And now I'm back to square one again.
Yeah, I go to Jason's house for the disc golf stuff. I go to Jason's house 4 times a year, and I spend a week there. And we probably blast through at least 10 games every single trip because we're just it's a blast. And that's where this podcast was really born, was we would stay up till midnight talking about games. And we were like, we should just record this and let other people in on the conversation. That'd be fun. And I'm pretty sure Casting Shadows, I brought the first time I went to Jason's house.
You did.
Over 2 years ago, as like, I just kickstarted this. It arrived. I was so excited. Still unplayed.
Still nothing.
So
yeah.
It
looks like it could be fun. Like, my kids enjoy that universe. I'm happy to play it. I backed their Cryptids one as well because, I probably shouldn't have. But again, my kids like the art. They're more willing to play those games, so I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. And I don't think, for context, Rob, for what it's worth, Robbie's actually in Birmingham, Alabama, and I live in Lynchburg, Virginia. And so just through this other disc golf world, we got to know each other. And now we have this fun board game world. So, and whenever he's up here, like I said, we stay up way too late every night playing games.
Yeah. It's a blast. But speaking of games we've been playing, we love to open up our podcast with games we have been playing lately. So, Jason, what's been hitting your table lately?
So a game that hit my table that I love, but I only played it 2 players, is a game called Monumental. It's a deck building-ish kind of game, an area control game, where the uniqueness is your deck, you're going to lay out a grid of 9 cards, 3, 3, and 3. You're going to activate a row and activate a column. I love, folks who've listened to podcasts know, I love cards that do stuff, right? So I love hand management. I love deck builders. And so activating a row and activating a column to just do the things that are on there. Sometimes it's getting a resource to buy more cards. Sometimes it's getting a resource to move your military around, to do different things, to go exploring. Monumental is super, super cool for sure. Now I will step back, and it's funny. There's pure coincidence. That's the game I played lately because I've only ever gone all the way insanely in on 2 games. Monumental was one of them. And those who know Monumental, and Alex knows this very well, it took forever to get delivered. Like forever. I'm glad it finally did. Ironically, I ended up selling it for more than I bought it for. So thank you very much, Alex. There you go. The value was worth it. And I ended up buying the $14 retail version off of Amazon because it ended up selling.
I saw that recently.
Yeah, exactly.
I almost wanted to get it because I was like, but I already have it. Why did I do this?
Exactly. So I bought the expansions too because they were like $12 and $13. So the 2 expansions and the base game are less than just anyway. Monumental, what I will say, the actions can take a long time under the original rules of how you did everything at one time, but there's so many things you get to do. Because you take an action, is basically unlimited actions based on the number of resources you have or what your abilities say on the card, and some of it is just pure moving to a space, and combat is just deterministic. If I have more than you, a la Small World or something, I'm going to take it, right? So there's no rolling dice. There's no chance to that combat. It's just, I'm going to go in and take it. You also have in the base game like 5 factions who start with their own deck. And then the other expansions have more in there as well. They actually released in their newest expansion called African Empires, they released they can call it a continuous play mode, but it's more like what I would call a traditional game, in that in the original Monumental, you did all your actions on one turn and you were done for the round. Then the other person did all their actions. So you can move one place, then they move one place. Almost Warhammer-ish. For those who know Warhammer, you're taking a big long turn, doing a bunch of stuff. Whereas now you just basically take a turn. Okay, I'm going to turn these resources and do this. And the other person takes a turn. You take a turn, you take a turn. It helps speed it up some, but it is a very long game. Even at 2 players, it was like a 2-hour game. They're actually coming out with Monumental Duo, Is that what it's called? That's releasing soon.
I think it's dual, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it may be dual, and there's 3 different modules, but I think you can interplay. Dice Tower guys love it. From watching what they did, I said I think I'll love it as well. So when it comes out, Monumental dual trade, because I just like doing the cards. I like playing the cards, buying the cards, and doing stuff. Right, that's just really fun. And that unique grid, say it's unique. There's a number of games that do similar grids. Activating those grids and having to think through what you want to do, super cool. Alex, what's a game you've been playing lately?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm excited for Monumental Duel now. I didn't know that it was being well received, and I am a fan of the game. It's definitely long. 2-player has been my favorite because of that, but it's a good game.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. For myself, my one of the games that I've been enjoying a lot recently is Minos from Board and Dice. It's designed by Stan Kodonsky. It's a newer title. It builds a little off the action system he has in Rurik. All those elements of a bunch of games in there. But the general idea of Minos is across 4 rounds of play, what you're doing is you're basically just doing everything in your actions as much as possible. You're starting by trying to select your actions from 5 core actions, but the tricky part is that as you draft dice from a public pool, other players can take other dice and undercut you, pushing your die later. There's reasons why you want higher value dice because they give you bonuses, but lower value dice can take stronger levels of the action. And so there's a constant trade-off of, okay, well, I want to take 3 build actions, so I'll draft this 4, knowing full well that someone at the table might go ahead and undercut you, and you'll get the benefit of the 4, but a lower action. And that already results in a lot of decisions based around the game. But the game relies on 5 core actions. There's, well, really 4 actions because 1 is wild. There's moving and recruiting as 1 action. There's building. There's gathering cards and playing cards. And cards is everything in this game. The entire game is all around how to build your economy and to manage the various buildings, ships, and cities and all the things you can be building while trying to play these cards that give you additional actions. So you're constantly trying to power up your tableau effectively through a variety of things that all intermingle beautifully. The game teaches pretty smoothly. I was able to time to teach just for the sake of trying to see how I can do it. And I got a 12-minute teach-in on a game that has so much, essentially we talked a little bit of cognitive load, and it kind of depends on this. I find there are 2 kinds of cognitive load. There's the rules overhead, and then how brain burnery the game is. And one of the things I love about Minos is it delivers the brain burniness. It gives you that crunch that much heavier, longer games can give you, but it does so with a rules teach that I was able to give in 12 minutes, which is pretty impressive for the amount of things that all tie together. I found it incredibly satisfying. Again, the one complaint, definitely can run long, especially at higher player counts, but it can be a very satisfying experience.
I like
cool.
that term, brain burn.
Brain burn,
when you're talking about that, I think we did Calico last week or week before, and Calico feels like another one that feels very brain burny as you go through, that you're like, all right, I just draft in place. And then you're like very quickly going, oh no, I've placed this spotted purple right here. And if I would have placed that spotted purple over here, that just opens up so many possibilities.
Yep.
No,
very cool. I like oh my gosh, Endless Winter from Stan Kordensky. So I'll have to check it out. The Minos. I mean, cards that do things and just sound exciting.
Yeah, if you enjoy Endless Winter, I definitely think that very much hitting similar kinds of strides and notes.
Cool. Another game that doesn't hit the table enough. Sorry, Robbie. Endless Winter is one. I have too many of those. Right? We all have those. I played it twice, but I probably haven't played it in a year and a half. And it's sitting right there. And it's playing cards to do stuff, and I just need to do that sometime. So, getting if nothing else, this will kind of motivate me maybe to get it to the table to play a Stan Kordonsky game.
I love it. So I had a chance to play another deck builder. Talk about games that I wish hit the table more. I realized when we played a game called Mistborn. It's a new game, Mistborn, the deck builder, based on the book series. And my brother is a huge fan of the book series. Got me reading it, has been hyping it up, got Jason to read it. And so really excited for the release of this. My brother was one of the people who ever first introduced me to hobby gaming with the Forbidden series, in Island and Desert. And so it's fun now that he introduced me to disc golf and he introduced me to board games, and I now create content in both spaces, and my collections in both have drastically surpassed where he's at. So it's our personalities is how it goes. So I was really excited to introduce him to that, and realized my wife, who is my primary person that I play games with, we just don't let deck builders hit the table very often. So as we started describing this idea of a deck builder, she was like, okay. And it just reminds me how much I enjoy a deck builder. What I really enjoyed most about the Mistborn system inside the game, though, was the use of metals to play the cards. I feel like a lot of deck builders, you're limited to, okay, when I draw cards, I get to play one action and have one buy. If we're looking at like the Dominion world or something like that. And the more there are cards that give me more plays or more buys and things like that. Whereas Mistborn, thematically, you use this metal system. And the longer you go on the training track, the more metals you get that you can burn. But what I thought was really interesting is you can flare metals that you don't get refreshed, but it doesn't necessarily count against. So it gives you more actions that you can use and things like that. And when I think about thematically inside of the story, when the Mistborn are in these fights, they're flaring metals left and right in order to survive. And so it's not I'm looking to the future, I'm trying to hold on. It is we just got to do what we got to do. We got to live. And as we got towards the end of the game, at the beginning, we're all very carefully, I'm going to burn this metal and this metal. I'm going to burn this one. I'm going to burn this one. And you're like, I don't want to burn any extra resources unless I think I can make a huge play. And then we got to the end of the game and it was like, oh, I think John can win in 2 turns. So I want to burn, flare. Like I'm just sending everything and hoping that I can refresh on the other side. And I just thought it was a really fun system that let you really lean into your whole hand. But having the market that sort of switches and adjusts, and the different players and the different characters you are have different abilities, which I think can influence how you play the game. So if you like a style, you can lean into that and pick that person to play as, or you can push yourself. I thought there was a lot of variance to it. Have y'all heard, is the game like being received well, or is it just people who like the story seem to like it?
I don't know what the overall reception is. I think it's been mixed, meaning people who like the theme definitely pulled more into it. I know I thought it was totally fine, but I guess I've played so many deck builders, I didn't see like the flaring was the most interesting part that was different, that stood out. But to me, I guess I want more. I'm spoiled for deck builders. But yeah, I think it's been received medium. I've definitely seen a lot of positive and a lot of mixed as well.
Yeah. I've seen the same. If you're if you're a big Mistborn fan, you're going to just love a lot of the stuff, right? Same way I love the Call to Adventure Stormlight Archives. The Call to Adventure game is just fine, but getting to see Kaladin and those in the game are fun. I think it's the same way, like Alex said, it's mixed. If you're a Mistborn fan, you're going to like a little bit more, unless you just don't like deck builders. But like for folks who played a ton of deck building games, it's like, okay, so. And even when I played it, I didn't knock my socks off from the gameplay, but when you think about it more, so when Robbie talks about, for those who are listening, when Robbie talks about burning metals, it's basically you have a token that you put on your board to say, I'm going to burn this metal. And if you flare, you flip it over, and you got to take an action later on to turn that token back over. What I liked about it was multi-use cards, and that you could actually turn some of the cards you could turn sideways to be another metal for that turn. I think that's fun to give you more agency. Is very cool, as opposed to, and also Ryder and my son and I, Alex, my youngest son, who's 20, is my hardcore gamer, and we were talking about it last night. And he's one of the reasons he likes Mistborn is because when you think about Clank, and I love Clank, every card you play always gets to do everything. Pretty much. I can walk down, I can go attack a monster, I can buy something. But in Mistborn, you cannot necessarily play every card you draw. And though I might say you have more agency, you may not have the metals. You may have flared the metal on the previous turn. So now I may have pulled this thing that wants 10. My 10's flared, so I can't even use it. So it actually becomes, for those who haven't played a ton of board games, like a little more tactical, and do I want to flare now so I can't use this for a whole turn or whatnot may be. So I had not thought about it when Ryder talked about it that way, but when you play Clank, unless you may not have enough boots to move through the crystal cavern or whatever, right? You may not have a key, but on principle, every boot and every sword and every whatever the blue number is for your resources, you can use those in every turn. But in Mistborn, if you don't know enough about deck building, you may not have the agency to figure that out at the beginning.
Yeah, it's it was fascinating, because I think that's how the game ended up being decided on for us. Is I saw, from just having a little more deck building experience, I saw, okay, my character wants to use this metal, and I can see that it kind of flares through. So every time that metal popped up on the market, I was buying it and just thinking, okay, eventually I'm just going to end up with good cards in my hand. And no one else at the table sort of leaned into that. And when they started realizing it, I had enough purchasing power that I was just buying their cards too, so that they didn't get them, so that they were just behind. And they ended up with a lot of dead hands. But we're not here to just talk about Mistborn and games we played lately. We are talking about, I think it's a really fun concept that going back and realizing we've had a somewhat discussion like this before, but it literally was like our first ever episode, and we've come a long way since then. And we put a nice little challenge on this one. So Jason, you want to talk about what we're going to be discussing today?
Yeah, for sure. You know, for gamers, and we have our go-to games we introduce to newer gamers, right? I have the standard set of games I may do because Ticket to Ride may be one of those, or Azul may be one of those, or whatever it may be. There's a long list of games, Carcassonne for a tile laying game, or even King Domino for a more basic one. So as gamers, quote unquote, we have this idea about what we introduce to newer players, or what we like to introduce to new players, or players who have been in the game for a little while, and let's just step it up a little bit. So that was kind of my challenge I sent out to Robbie and Alex. And Alex had a great question. Well, what you define is what is new is we're trying to say what are not traditional games you may necessarily hear. Now, if you're in the gaming space, you'll know these, but a lot of our listeners, Alex, have come from the disc golf world because they knew Robbie and he brought him over. And some of them are hardcore gamers who, like, I just had an Instagram message from someone who's thinking about one of our friends, Caleb's thinking about jumping into the Oathsworn world because he loves campaign games. Yeah. Whereas we have folks who've never played anything and they're just excited. Oh, I'm so excited to find Cascadia. So we have the variety of those. So there's what Alex may see is what a traditional gamer may not view as a traditional game. It may be different what I have, different what Robbie has. And I was like, fair enough. Like, you just talk about whatever games you want to here. So the way we're going to do this, we're just going to talk about a game and kind of rotate through. I'm going to mention one, then Alex, and then Robbie. And if you follow Alex, you'll know this. I'll go and tell you I have a cheat because I actually have 4 games. I really said we're going to do 3 games, but I'm going to talk about 4 games. So the first one I'm going to mention is we've mentioned in passing before, and I just taught it to Dakota and Marissa, some of our friends, Century Golem Edition. I won't pull it out, and I'll kind of go a little quicker on this, but so there's a game called Century Spice Road, the exact same game as Century Golem Edition, except it's just a different theme. That what Century Golem Edition really teaches you is some hand management and a kind of deck building, because you basically are playing a card to get on your turn. You can just take a card that goes into your hand. You can build your hand, and that card may say, give me a yellow gem, upgrade a gem, give me a pink and a blue gem, whatever that may be. Or you can turn in gems you've gotten on previous turns. Sorry. You can take a card, do that. You can play a card that lets you do something like get gems, or you can turn those gems in to get a golem, to get a card with points. I'm not doing a very good explaining that, but essentially you have a hand manager where you're playing cards to get gems and then turning those gems in to buy other cards later on that are point cards. When we played it a couple weeks ago, I was like, wow, I forget just how super light this game is, which is why it's a perfect one for me to talk about. The cool thing about it is hand management, because you're deciding what cards in your hand you're deciding to play in what order. And it is deck building ish, because you're choosing which cards on a row to add to your hand. And sometimes you may have to pay gems for those if you don't take the first one. But I like the nature in which you're having to think about it, but you're not having to overly think about the way we think about Mistborn playing a card. Do I want to go down there because I got to flare this to do this? It gets you the idea of managing the cards in your hand. And the last thing that's fun about this one for me is that you in traditional deck builders, you're shuffling, drawing, playing, shuffling, drawing, playing. This one, you have your entire hand the entire time. You play it, it stays down, and one of your actions is actually bring your whole hand up. So whether you have 5 cards or 20 cards, maybe 15 cards, they're all available for you to play on your turn. So that way you're not going to the luck of the draw for what's in your deck building side of it. In the Golem Edition, the art's fantastic. It's kind of funky, kind of fun, for sure. Century Golem Edition, little hand management, deck building-ish.
How about you, Alex? What's your first?
So my first one, I'm trying to think. Let's save best for last. So I'm going to go in reverse order. I'll start with Junk Drawer. Junk Drawer is a newer game of 20th century games that I find it's one of those games that is not super popular. Whether you're in the board game space or not, it's not super popular. It's not super well known. 20th Century Games puts out a lot of games, and I think some of them have become a bit more I guess, known and others less so. But junk drawer builds off polyominoes, which is a very popular thing, especially amongst both amongst gamers, but also makes for a great gateway mechanic because of the familiarity with Tetris. And so junk drawer has this polyomino building, but the premise is you're managing 4 separate junk drawers. In the game, each junk drawer gets a rule as far as how you want to put things into that drawer. Maybe you get more points for pieces not touching each other, which is hard when you're only dealing with a 5x5 space. It might be a 4x4, but I think it's 5x5. Some might give you points for all the outer edge being surrounded. Another drawer might give you points for having, the size 3 pieces in it only. And then every round consists of pulling from a shared deck effectively that shows you the types of polyominoes. You might get, everyone has to place their L-shaped polyomino now. And so everyone has their own L-shaped polyomino, but you have to choose which of the 4 drawers to put it into. The tricky part is you then have to put your next polyomino in one of the remaining 3 drawers, and your next polyomino in the remaining 2, and the last one in the last remaining drawer, without knowing which polyominoes are coming next. So you're trying to make an informed guess of I think I'll put it in this drawer, but that will mean I'm stuck down to only these 2 drawers for whatever comes next, and it depends which piece comes next, and these are the pieces we have left in the pool. But it gives you a high degree of replayability because each drawer has different rules, and there's tons of rules. You're only using 4 per game. It plays in 25 to 30 minutes. It plays at a decent amount of players. It doesn't really have interaction in the sense that makes it very friendly for newer gamers as well, where what you do is not going to mess up my turn. It's all about my own little puzzle. And it's the concept, the theme of managing your junk drawer, your headphones here and your USB stick here and all that makes it very compelling. And so overall, I found that is a great gateway game that is very enjoyable for players to dive into.
That game sounds fantastic. I pulled it up on BGG while you're talking, and I think I've heard the name, but I like polyomino games, and having the specific rules within there that you have to follow in a little push. Okay, if I'm going to put the L here, I have to put something in the next one. It looks fantastic. That's definitely going on a list of adding to my shelf of games I don't need, but I like lighter games. Well, I end up having to play a lot of light games locally because I don't really have a heavier gaming group, so having diversity of lighter games is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll follow suit because I also had a polyomino game on there for the exact same reasons, Alex. I think about how many folks have played Tetris, and a lot of times that I'm introducing people, they really have very minimal connection to board games whatsoever, or they are interested in board games. And so how do you take that jump for them? Because I think that cognitive load, sometimes I really want to dive in to certain games, and it's just it seems really simple to me. Okay, I understand how this is very complicated. I get that. But if you tell them, you're doing your own version of Tetris, except you don't have to stress about clicking them in the right places they fall down, it's going to settle really well. And that's New York Zoo. I love New York Zoo. The art is incredible. My version of New York Zoo, I chuckle because I sent a picture to Jason. I played it at his house, really loved it because I also enjoy polyomino games. And when I bought it, I didn't get any flamingos in my box. I got double wolves. And so I just painted the white wolves pink. And so we have those are my flamingos. It is a great experience. But so New York Zoo, you are moving a shared piece around the board. So what's interesting about it is that your turn can be thrown off by other people. But one of the biggest things and biggest reasons I chose this is that I feel like when you're playing board games, a lot of times some hobby games, especially if you're playing with newer players, you can deal with a lot of analysis paralysis because people are either they don't care, so they're just doing turns as fast as possible, or they're overwhelmed in terms of, I don't know what to do. I don't want to make the wrong move. And so they get frozen. So if you're playing with 3 new players that have a lot of analysis paralysis, the time between turns can feel really bad. And so when we play these hobby games, it's like, I did my turn and now I don't have to do anything for 20 minutes. And that's just not a pleasant playing experience. Whereas in New York Zoo, as the piece moves around, there is breeding moments that happen. When we pass the penguin marker, if you have the opportunity to breed penguins, then you're going to breed penguins. And so there are things happening to the board, your board, even not on your turn, which I think is really, really powerful for newer players and even experienced players to make the game more interesting. I can sit here and have a conversation with Alex and Jason, and if Elizabeth is playing with us, she's doing her turn, and I really just have to pay attention to, did she pass animals that I am ready to breed with? And I can plan accordingly on my turn. I just think it's a very fun interaction, and it plays like I think the replayability is really high. When I've introduced it to new players, every single time I've introduced it, we end up playing twice, like back to back, because they get it after playing the first time and they're like, okay, can we go again? Because it plays really fast. So I really love New York Zoo. It's a polyomino. You're filling your zoo. You're having animals fill up the different spaces. The character, like the little meeple animal pieces, are really cute. So it's a big win for me. And I think if you enjoy polyomino, it's a great road into polyomino without maybe hitting like a planet unknown and being like, well, this is amazing, but oh no, I'm terrified. That Lazy Susan gives me nightmares. So, Jason, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is, just jump right into it, Herbaceous. A fun little set collection game, super light, where essentially it's a push your luck game in that your ultimate goal is to make sets of herbs on these cards. Beautiful art. I have the box right here. I didn't even pull up any cards. Too late on that. And so on your turn, it's push your luck because you have a face down deck and you're going to draw a card, and you either put that card in your private garden. And if you do that, the next card automatically goes up in the public garden, or you draw a card and you put it in the public garden and the next card automatically goes in your private garden. I actually really love push your luck, and there's also a term called I split you choose. It's not quite I split you choose in that, but it's a variation of that because I'm splitting one and choosing one and the other one. But the cool thing about Herbaceous, there's only 3. You each have the same 3 scoring goals. Pairs of cards, the same 4 scoring goals. Pairs of cards, different cards in the same card. And so you choose when you want to make that set for your cards. And once you've made that set, you put it underneath your scoring card in front of you, and that's it for the game. It's teaching you set collection. Always good. A lot of games have our set collection in there. But the nature of, do I want to keep this or do I want to take it down? Do I want to put it in my private garden or put it in public garden? The other cool thing about it is when you choose to make, instead of drawing cards, if you're ready to make a set, you can choose guards from your private garden or herbs from the public garden as well. I won the first few games of that because my family just didn't realize they should take most of their cards from the public garden first and then combine that with the private garden. They're like, oh, I already have a set of 3 here. Well, if there's 2 out there, take them from there and you can combine them. Robbie, I don't think we've played Herbaceous with you. We've played Floriferous, same designer, same publisher, different game, but similar art. Herbaceous, super light because the set collection, really quick game. The I cut you choose, the push your luck kind of split choice on that is what I really end up enjoying about it, and the art's fantastic in Herbaceous.
Yeah, my second one is my go-to full-on party game, and that's So Clover, which has not only become one of my favorite party games, like it's possibly rivaling Codenames for how much I enjoy it, but also I find it's the most accessible because it's full co-op. So Clover is a party game in which the basic idea is you're given a clover, a little 4-leaf clover, where you're placing multiple cards, 4 cards that all have a side in common. So it's pairing up 2 words. So for example, I might get I'm just going to come up with 2 words based on things I see. I'm going to get light and clock. Great. So you have the 2 words light and clock. So now I have to write on my side of the board a single word that I think will help you out to guide you to those words. So for example, with light and clock, maybe I write, I don't know, fixture. Okay, maybe fixture. That could be good enough for light and clock. We'll see either way, or it could be anything, but I write fixture. Then what happens is after I've done that for all 4 sides, where there's 4 different combinations, what happens next is the cards that were put down into place are all shuffled up because they all have 4 words in them in different orientations. And then a 5th card is added to really throw things into the mix, which gives the other players at the table, 20 possible words that they're trying to configure an array to try to see how they can rotate and turn to find those things. So from these 20 possible words amongst 4 different cards, they're trying to find things that match up to fixtures. And so maybe somebody will see clock and light, maybe they'll find them, but you also might get something else that could have been a fixture that might show up. Maybe there's a shelf on a word. And so you're trying to come up with all these combinations, and if you're able to be successful enough at all of them, the geometrical nature of putting them all together really can help, combined with your clues, can help guide players in the right direction. But I find it's incredibly gateway friendly because of the co-op nature, where you kind of just start playing and then the other players can help them walk through the deductive process, and before you know it, 2 seconds later, everyone's playing with barely any rules and having a whole lot of fun and less stakes that you're going to be the Codenames player who can't figure out how to play because of cooperative nature. And so it's become my go-to party game for gateway gamers, as well as one of my personal favorites, even amongst my regular crowd.
That's not it. We have So Clover, and when it first came out, we played it and it just didn't hit, but everybody still loves it in the space. So I need to bring it back out because we go to Green Team Win, totally different game, but our party game right now is Green Team's Win. Green Team wins, but So Clover is beloved in the gaming world. And we only played it a couple of times. It didn't hit, but obviously I need to get it back out sometime.
It is one that continuously grew on me over time. So if it didn't hit at all, it's a different conversation. I always enjoyed it, but it went from, oh, I like this, I see why people like it, and then consistently continued to ramp up for me.
Yep. Cool. Robbie, your audio is muted.
That's fair. Good catch, everybody. Good catch. So I try not to, as I'm looking up these games, I'm trying not to like have y'all as the listeners have all the. Yeah, no, I like you mentioned that like co-op nature in code names. I think that sometimes that co-op nature can feel so bad, right? Like when you're that player who is on the team and you've talked the entire team either into a card that is like the card we just have to avoid, or you talk them out of your team's card into the other one. It's like
all the time.
It's a great story, but also feel bad for poor Ezra who shows up and is like, I decided to be social for the first time, and then we played this co-op game and now everyone hates me, and like I'm never going out in public again. Like it's just not the experience we're looking for. So I definitely want to check that out. My number 2 is also in the party game genre, and it's sort of music trivia. Jason mentioned it, and then it was on a Black Friday sale, so I went for it. It's called Hitster, and it is a music trivia game that basically you connect it to a Spotify account. You don't have to have a paid Spotify account. It just makes it a little easier. And so you scan this QR code on the card on the back of it, and it starts playing the song for you. What I thought was really interesting on the tech side was it plays it on your Spotify app, but it sort of hides it underneath the app of the game. So you can't like tell that what the actual song is, or else it would just ruin the whole thing. So the song starts playing, and what we noticed is everyone can still kind of talk because you're just enjoying the vibes, enjoying the music. And then you have to look at this timeline of cards that you have in front of you, and it will have the song, it will have the artist, and it has the year the song was released. And you have to fit the card into your timeline where you think it fits properly. There are mechanics you can add in that make the game more complicated in terms of steals and things like that. But there's also, you can just straight up play with the cards. You can ignore the coins altogether. When we did it, we had my newborn son was there. And so everyone's just passing him around, holding him, rocking him. And then we're all just talking at the end of the day at family Christmas, and we're just playing music. And there were times where it was like, oh, we know where this fits. We know the song. We know the artist. We can even tell you the year because we remember when it came out. But let's just play the song for a little while longer and enjoy it. What I also appreciate about Hitster is that for taking it to future parties, the variants that you can play because the app is so well done actually opens up so many possibilities. We could do teams and just do speed trivia. We're going to play the song, first person to buzz in and name the artist. They get the song. First person to buzz in and name the artist and the song gets the, however you want to switch it up. And so there's just so much information that's packed into the game. What I think what really nailed it for me is there are few things that really liven up a party as just enjoying music together. Get a Bluetooth speaker hooked up. Everyone's going to have a good time. People can roll in and out of the game. And because the information's there, it just makes it very easy, and it's super affordable as well. So this is one that I could see. We have a copy at our house, and we just end up with another copy in my car for, hey, we're at trivia with friends, like our weekly trivia gathering, and we bring Hitster out and just play in between questions. So that's my number 2 is Hitster.
Have you played it, Alex?
Cool. I haven't heard of that one. No, I haven't even heard of it.
We got it at Target. Like I got it on a buy 2 get 1 free, and it was $9.99. And it's, if you like music, like a wide range of music, we recommend anybody. Like it's so fun playing this game. Like when I texted Robbie about it, like he literally bought it like the next day. And Brad, one of our friends, one of my coworker bought it, loves it. But if you're not really it sounds odd, right? If you're not a music fan, 'cause it can cover like 30s blues to 2019 goth rock to everything in between, right? Or goes to 22. And so if you just love listening to the music and stuff, you new in your youth or in the current thing. Like when I play with my kids, now my kids are all college age. I'm like, I have no idea what this is, and they know what it is right away, right? But if you hit the late 90s, the early 2000s, the early 90s, I just kill it, and so it's a blast. Hitster is. I think it's $19.99 full price at Target, but it's routinely on sale. And I just gave one copy to my son-in-law last night for his birthday. He could use my copy anytime, and now they have their own copy. So, Hitster.
And I'll say that I am someone, we do trivia every week. Like, we love it. We're here for it. A lot of trivia board games are bad. I'm just going to say it because there's a fixed amount of questions, and you can kind of like, you just learn the answers. And so the replayability really drops in them pretty drastically, unless they're wacky answers like a Wits and Wagers or something like that. Because you can play this so many different ways, I felt like we were certainly not worried about the replayability of like, oh, this hits the table 3 times. And now we're just like, oh, that's My Heart Will Go On. Obviously that came out and
right.
Bank. So like, I can't even tell you right now. So it would be fun.
So it's just a ton because my whole family loves music, so it's a ton to play it. So my third and fourth game, quick cheat. So one game's Ohanami. I don't think I played that with you either, Robbie, right? Have we played Ohanami? I don't think so. Played it with Brody, though, ironically. Ohanami is a card drafting game. It's sort of set collection because the cards are numbered 1 through 120. And you're basically you can clean up 3 different columns where you're adding a card to the top or bottom, but it has to be higher than the card on top or lower than the card on the bottom. And that's it. On your turn, you're going to take 2 cards. A la Seven Wonders, a la Sushi Go. Everybody ready? Play your cards. Your restrictions are it has to be play on top of your column, higher than the previous number, below the column, lower than the previous number, and that's it. It's a 3-round game. You score at the end of each round. The interesting thing is the cards have different colors. There's blue, pink, and gray, maybe green. I forgot. There's 3 or 4 colors. The different colors score in different ways. So how you choose which card you want to go for may dictate what your score is at that time. And you may have to do a jump from like a 20 to a 45 at the top, knowing I can never now go put a card in between that 20 and 45. So I've limited my ability on that column, on that top or that bottom. I love card drafting games. I love trying to just think my way around that for sure. On principle, it's super light. You're taking 2 cards, you put them in columns. Taking 2 cards, put them in columns. That's all you do. But the tactical nature of what colored cards you want to do is what it comes into. We don't play it a ton, but I have a long list of games that whenever I play it, I love it. Ohanami is one I absolutely love to play. Super quick as well because draft, you're done, right? In draft, 3 rounds, you're done with the game. Super fun. My fourth one that's going to be a little bit of a cheat is a really basic game that I've never even once mentioned on this podcast. It's called Roll For It. Roll For It is super, super light. Everyone has 6 die. There's cards that go out, and there's going to be 3 cards that go out. And the card could have a 4 and a 5, or 5 5s, or a 1 and a 2, right? Any of the up to 6 different die faces on there. And on your turn, you roll. And if your die happen to hit that card, well, you get that card and there's points on it. But maybe it's 5 5s and you roll 4 5s. Well, you stick your 4 5s out there and they sit there and they're like, I'm kind of banking. I've invested in that. And if no one else hits their 5 5s, when you come back, you already have 4 5s. I roll another 5. I take that card. That's the entire game. It's just dice chucking pure, right? If you enjoy dice chucking, laughing because you're so close or you're missing it, or games that could go really fast because perfect rolls come out, or really bad if you're going for really big cards because the 6 6s or 6 of anything is really hard. Roll For It. We don't play it enough, but it's easy because are you going to keep that out there or not? Are you going to keep your die out there or not? Next player, go, roll a bunch of die. Alex, have you played? I assume you've played Roll For It. Have you played Ohanami?
I have not played.
Oh, you haven't? Oh my gosh! Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out like that.
I'm familiar with both, but haven't played either.
So it's so light. It's a nothing game, but it makes it easier for non-gamers to walk away and still not be a gamer after playing that. They just played a game.
Yeah, the tricky part is both your suggestions made me want to. I'm going to escalate yours from 3 to 5. I'm not going to talk with them, but I will say look at Captain Flip for a game with cards and columns, and look at Roll to the Top for a game with rolling dice. Those are also both great gateway games. But for my pick will be my go-to gateway game that has replaced. I mean, there's many games that I've loved sharing with people and consistently been hits. But my newest one for going on 2 years now has been Canvas. Canvas I find is one that has such a huge appeal, and it's the biggest one that is a hit with anyone, no matter how little interest they have in playing board games. It's the game I pull out when there's someone at the table who didn't sign up for it, has no interest, but I want to introduce something to the table because I don't like pushing games at people. But this isn't pushing games at people. This is you set it up for 2 seconds and people want to have fun with it. Because the premise of Canvas is the mechanical premise of it is you're trying to optimize your point scoring by gathering sets of cards and then combining those cards to fulfill certain criteria. That's the mechanical side of things, which does appeal to the things I like in games where I'm trying to optimize. I'm like, ooh, this card has this symbols, this card has those symbols. If I combine these 3 cards together, I can most optimally fulfill these scoring conditions, so I have to be mindful of how I draft those cards and how much resources I pay to draft those cards because it's the right fit. That's the mechanical side. But the non-mechanical side is you have these acrylic cards with aspects of art on them, along with the symbols you need for point scoring. They have different art pieces on these cards that all overlay over a canvas to create your own unique piece with its own unique name. And so you can literally play the game with no interest in what's actually happening mechanically, just to be like, I'm going to create a piece of art. You'll still score points, probably less so than someone who's trying to play the game, but I've had so many non-gamers be intrigued and be pulled in just by the aspect of, hey, I'm going to overlay a bunch of acrylic cards and create a piece of art. Like, it's literally a thing you can hand to kids, and it's a fun activity. Make your own little piece of art. And now you're doing it with people at the table who are pulled in by that, and over the course of the game, they do start realizing suddenly, like, my favorite moment of Canvas every time is that moment with somebody who's new to the game, they've barely played games before at all, and they want the piece, they want the card that's going to like have this ocean background and perfectly complement their card, and then you see that moment when they realize, but that other card has 2 triangles, and that's better for my score. And you suddenly see them torn between the optics and the score, and then whichever way they go, it's a satisfying experience.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I'm not kidding you this. I literally just gave Canvas to my daughter last night. My daughter and her husband's birthday were within a few days of each other. We celebrated it late. It was earlier in January, and I gave her the retail version of Canvas. So it's so funny, and I'm currently backing their big box because
likewise.
The first. Not all in, was all in, but it wasn't much. I backed the very first Canvas that had the wooden easels that were like a free add-on. The biggest return on profit I had on an early game was Canvas because it was when it got delivered, Robbie, it was wildly hot. And we played it a couple of times. I'm like, you know what? I'll just sell it, make some money, and buy some more games. I think
don't tell anyone you can buy a stack of those wooden easels on Amazon.
I know,
very cheap.
Yeah, exactly, way cheaper than anything else. So, Robbie, I think you would like. I've thought about this for you and Lindsay as well, just the aesthetic nature of you're making these canvases. So, like I said, and Alex hits the nail on the head. I don't mean to, because if you're trying to crunch it out and min max is one thing. But I want a really cool picture as well that goes in these sleeves, and you're like, oh, I love the way that looks, but this picture isn't as cool looking, but it gets me more points, and so. Canvas is one that I'd wanted to get back for a while, and then when they did the reprint and the big box recently, I'm backing it right now because I know I'll like it. It has a few expansions that come with it as well, but I just gave that to Hannah last night, and she was like, "Have we played this before?" And she turned it over and looked at it as well. The cool thing is the box is also something you can hang on the wall. It has like a little opening on the back, Robbie, so you can literally hang the game on the wall. So it's a canvas you can hang on the wall like a picture. Great game.
Yeah, because I mean, just looking at the box itself, like the art on the front of the box is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. That is a really cool concept. I mean, it takes me to one of my like favorite reality shows of all time was Ink Master, and these competitions, and they had to do a competition where it was like panes of glass that they were stacking up, and you had to create this like deep image, but you could only put one color on each pane of glass, and they like the fact that that's a board game is so cool. That will definitely be on its way after we hang up. So I appreciate that, Alex. That's nice.
Again, this goes under the "you're costing me so much money" category.
Oh no, trust me. This will be one that I think because we have a newborn around the house, we've got family rolling in and out. So I think I'll actually be able to convince more people to play, which is fun. Instead of like, oh, I really want to get this to the table. No one wants to play this 90-minute game with me. But my last one though is Gloomhaven, because if you're not willing to play, no, I'm just kidding. We're not throwing that out there. My last one is Role Player, because there are two aspects of introducing people, like two aspects of Role Player that I really enjoy. As someone who is very competitive and I enjoy winning, I always like a dice game because it helps keep my competitive nature in check, because there's always the randomness of the die, right? Like I can want to do something so bad, but when the die comes, it's It's what it is. And so as much as I want to try to optimize my board and things as much as I can, only certain dice are going to come out. That's why I think Sagrada is really fun. If I had to throw an honorable mention. But the other thing about Role Player is I think there are so many people in the world who are interested in D&D and would actually love playing D&D, but won't give it a chance for a multitude of reasons. Oh, it's too nerdy for me. Oh, it seems too hard for me to jump into. And one of the best ways I feel like to hook people into playing D&D is to just make a character. It's very easy. You're just going to grab some die and roll it. Okay, awesome. What kind of character do you want to be? Perfect. You just rolled, like 12. That probably needs to go into your strength because you wanted to be a warrior. So let's put it there. Like anyone who's played D&D for a long amount of time has had an idea for a character, rolled for it, decided those stats were not great, and then rolled again. And so Role Player, the idea that we just get to do the character creation again and again as a board game is super fun, and I think creates a really fun way to get into D&D. So I think it's a gateway into an entirely different hobby as well as board gaming, and it allows that balance of controlling like your competitive side because of the dice nature. I realize I explained all the joys of it. In Role Player, you are creating a character and you're drafting traits and skills and talents and all of these different things to your board by bringing die onto the board. And you can match the colors accordingly as you build this because there's multicolored die. And you bring them in certain rows and characteristics in order to maximize your character. So if you're a min-maxer, you can really appreciate this because some players are going to play and they're just going to draft to try to do one really cool thing. The min-maxer is going to enjoy this if you have a experienced gamer at the table. I think it really just scratches a lot of itches for different people. And I feel like Role Player just doesn't get talked about a ton. I think it's one that people enjoy and then they just kind of move past it to other things. But I just really, from a gateway perspective, think it is so good at connecting a lot of dots for newer players. So that's my third.
Totally.
Choice.
Good choice. But talking about D&D, I'm going to jump in real quick, Robbie. Did you see the latest Horrified is going to be D&D? It was just announced yesterday. That looks cool. Yep.
Come on.
Very exciting. Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't mean to jump
so
in
many
there.
great options. Yeah, no, you're good. So many great options, guys, for you to check out. We would love to know in the comments, what are games that you prefer to go to that you would say are not in the traditional realm of games you would suggest to players? I think that we definitely pull out a list here that I feel like is not, if you looked at top 10 games, you may see one or two of these on there that content creators are going to recommend, and I think we've definitely given some great options. So hope you guys enjoyed. I've got a board game that I've got to purchase, so we've got to wrap this up. So I just want to say, Alex, thank you so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. We know we're going to put some links down below, but just it's always easier for people who don't like to read descriptions. Where can they find you at?
Thanks for having me. This is great, and I need to get some games as well. But it's that basically this is words. I lost track. You can find me over on YouTube. You can find me over on YouTube primarily. I do still post on Instagram here and there. I'm not consistent enough at it though, because again, that's like I'm checking the box. But if you want to hear me go on way too much in way too many videos, I'm consistently on YouTube talking about anything from the latest review to a top 10 list to games on crowdfunding to the games I'm backing as well as the games I'm not backing. And search Board Game Co.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we'll have that link down below. So thank you so much, Jason. Any final words?
No, I am good, man. I truly appreciate it, Alex. This has been exciting. I will be transparent and fanboying a little bit because I'm a big fan of Board Game Co. So it's very fun. I'm very lucky and blessed. This crazy world I get to live in between disc golf and even board games now. So thank you again for coming on.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. And y'all, we will see you next episode. Have a good one.
See ya.